this is our moment. Turn the level way up till it's high voltage. We gon' light them up, make the world take notice. When the game face on, then it's game over. You a witness in the force to be flagship. Grinding for greatness.
What's going on, everybody? It's been a little while since we've been on here. We've got a lot of things to talk about here. There's been some exciting news here in Birdland. I'm sure pretty much everybody knows at this point, but they have actually signed a manager prior to free agency. Let's kind of give the Orioles a round of applause here for that. I wasn't expecting that personally. But there's a lot to go over here between the manager, the coaching staff, Mike Elias, some of the players and whatnot. We need to dive in. I have a good set of scenes here tonight. We're going to go over a lot of different things here, but let's kind of get right into it. Who is Craig Albernaz, and what does he bring the Orioles? So Craig is coming over from the Cleveland Guardians organization here, where he was basically Stephen Vogt's best friend. He played about 9 years in the minor leagues as a catcher, never made it to the big leagues, but I was kind of listening to some podcasts and some guys that talked about him and whatnot. So he was actually David Price's personal catcher when they were coming up through the system together. He'd be completely honest with you. He was pretty light with the bat. He's 5'8", but he's a guy that everybody commanded respect out of him, and he commanded respect back. And he went on to talk about, like, a guy like David Price that is going to make the big leagues. Like, he put every effort that he had into making sure that David looked the best. And it's probably why he hung around for a while. And I was listening to his story, and, he had a couple offers to kind of play up north and whatnot. And he wanted to get out of Massachusetts, and he went down to Florida. His dad told him, don't worry about go D1. And he went down to Florida, and he said, when he stepped off the plane, it was 75 and sunny. And he's like, I'm staying down here. So he went to Division II school. And he actually used to work out with a lot of the Tampa Bay Rays players back then. So they kind of took him under his wing a little bit. He said he would catch their bullpens. They would take him out to dinner and whatnot. And, he graduated and it was expecting to get drafted. He said he was expecting a day 2 call and just never got called, and actually went to work for a full season. And the following year, I guess he said something like some catchers or whatnot had retired or left the organization or something. So they basically just needed bullpen catchers in spring training. So they called him. He signed a spring training only contract, went down there, did pretty well. Guys liked, him receiving the ball, and eventually, it led to a 9-year minor league career. And guy threw out 44% of his base runners. So you're looking at a guy who's kind of been from the bottom and made his way up. And he's now one of the most respected coaches in all of baseball. And I know nobody really knew his name. He had an interesting title with Cleveland, which is it's a newer title around baseball. And it's basically just it's a bench coach who has basically more. He focuses on an area more than just a typical bench coach. He's a catching guru, so he worked a lot with Patrick Bailey. The last year, Buster Posey, and with San Francisco when he moved on to them, he had Joey Bart, who was supposed to be a good catcher. He never really lived up to it, but he had Bo Naylor recently, and I think now Baltimore looks at this guy as what can he do with Samuel Basallo and Adley Rutschman. So you're looking at a guy that I feel like they feel very confident in, that can interact with younger players and build off this core of catchers that this organization has. And I say catchers because it's not just Adley Rutschman and Samuel Basallo that are pretty good in this organization. They spent the first round pick this past year. They spent, Ethan Anderson the year before. So they have you've got, guys in AA that are doing pretty good. So there's a crop of catchers in this organization that could learn a lot from Albernaz here. And I think the Orioles seen that and were pretty excited. And not to mention, like, the things that you read about him and how guys kind of just flock to him. And we'll go over some of the quotes that he had tonight and stuff. And we'll kind of find out who he is as a person and why guys like him so much. But his big thing is he's been known for his player development and being able to get in and make these personal relationships with younger guys. And I'm not going to say that anybody who wanted a more experienced manager is wrong. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And could the Orioles have benefited from a Bruce Bochy or a Bob Melvin or someone like that? Yes. We can all agree that they probably would have. But I'm not going to sit here and say that they're not going to find a way to play well for a younger guy with inexperience. I didn't have a whole lot of time to look up, and I wanted to do this, but I wanted to look up guys' first years and how well they did and their postseason records and whatnot, because everybody started somewhere. I mean, Aaron Boone won 100 games his first season. Granted, it's the Yankees, but I mean, he was a guy who had no managing experience whatsoever and went out and won 100 games with the Yankees. So are we the Yankees, and is the talent level there? It should be, but it's not. But this is a guy I feel like who can come in, and I think his projections are probably to be, you better win 90 to 92 games. You better get yourself in the dance here. And I think we were going to we dive into this guy tonight. I think we're going to like what we see so far. I know what I have liked, or what I have seen so far, I have liked about him, looking him up, listening to some of his podcasts and whatnot, kind of feeling what he likes with the game and whatnot. And we're going to go over some things. I have 5 segments I want to go through. Obviously, this is segment 1. Segment 6 is going to be fan interaction. I do see you guys pouring in here, and I completely appreciate it. I will get to these eventually. Don't think I'm ignoring you. I just have a lot to go on, and I just don't want to drag this out for 3 hours tonight. But we'll kind of move right along here. So segment 2, what is his philosophy? And this is kind of where it gets fun, because he's known for, like I said, for his relationships. But what I liked most about him was he said that I like to build personal relationships with these players, but I still hold them accountable. And that, to me, just that hit every bell and whistle in my brain when I heard that, because something that I feel like most of these fans could probably agree on is the accountability factor that these younger players had. And you know, there's some people that have lived around some of these players or see them out and about after games and whatnot, and they'll tell you that there was no accountability. Some of these guys were able to do whatever they wanted. And to get somebody to come in and kind of demand respect and hold people accountable for their actions, for their gameplay, you know, for their workouts and whatnot, that's kind of what Baltimore needs. So I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to see younger players get better. I was listening to some of his quotes about like defense, and we're going to go over some of them too. He prioritizes defense. And I know I've talked with several of you guys about like how this defense has kind of fallen off over the past couple of years. And it's almost like they don't take it as serious as they used to. Because even when the team was bad, I mean, they kind of, Brandon Hyde kind of moved on from not moved on, but he picked up on what Buck Showalter was putting down with the defense, and how they really prioritize that. Catch the ball first, make the throw. And it seems like Albernaz is in that same boat. Cleveland played outstanding defense all the time. I mean, that was something that Stephen Vogt really preached. So you know you're bringing that here to this organization. So what I like is he's not like a dictator. And the one thing that I did like from one of his quotes, and I tweeted it out earlier, and it's going to be kind of hard to read, but he said it's very easy to come in and dictate and have these guys, or have this way of thinking that my way worked prior, and I'm going to do it that way only. But he said that basically every player is different, and you got to peel them back a little bit. You kind of bring them in the loop, explain to them why you're doing things a certain way. Explain to them, say, okay, you may have had success your way, but here's me showing you how I think you can get better, and this is why I think you could get better. And I think that's going to resonate with our players, because I looked at a lot of them sometimes, and we'll take John Mabry, for instance, here. When he came in, they all started jumping on the first pitch really quickly, and then it kind of died off a little bit. And did the message die off? Did the teams kind of adjust to that? What I like about Albernaz is he's going to say, like, we're going to figure this out together. We're just not going to throw crap at the wall here and hope something sticks. Like, we're going to figure out exactly what it is. And he's an analytic guy. He said he loves video, and he loves all that good stuff to break down and see why something is happening and then help explain that to the player. And he said he was kind of like an old school approach with as far as teaching the game with the new school analytic. He said he likes to use analytics as a tool, which is what they're made for, not to live and die by. So the big thing for him, you know, in my opinion, is how do we get to this point where he's allowed to do everything that he needs to do to make these guys better? Is he still going to be, I don't want to use the word puppet that I've heard a little bit. Is he going to be, is the leash going to be loose? should I say. Like, everybody needs a leash. Let's be honest. If Bruce Bochy was here, he would still need some type of leash, right? The guy wins in the postseason. He loses a lot too. So, like I said, everybody needs a leash there. So, but again, I like how he used the data. He communicates it. He builds trust with guys. And another great quote that I read from him: I don't know everything. My coaches don't know everything. We leverage our resources with data. We go back and forth and have conversations with the player, and we get them to a point where they have confidence to execute their game. What else can you ask for at that point? Like, that's kind of what most of these fans have been begging for from the last, 2 years. Like, we see changes. We've seen guys make changes to their stance, their approach at the plate, with never really a reason to why. And it was never talked about. Reporters could never get anything out of it. I'm hoping maybe Albernaz is like more open about things. Yes, we made this change. Here's why. Yes, we're going to run more. Yes, we're going to swing on the first pitch. Here's why. Hopefully, as fans and reporters and whatnot, they can get this kind of information out of this guy. I know baseball's secretive, and they don't really like to talk about some of that stuff sometimes, but just to kind of keep people in the loop just as much as the players would benefit, I think, some fans from not hating the guy right off the bat, if that makes sense. But everybody preached on his leadership, which I thought was awesome, and it was great to hear. I mean, Cleveland fans are really sad to lose this guy. A lot of them, Joe Madden said himself, when Joe Madden used to coach the Rays back when he played there, that this guy was going to be an awesome manager someday. And here he is. He gets his opportunity with the Baltimore Orioles. I'm excited to see what he does. So I feel like he's that type of voice that the Orioles need right now, where he's still going to be stern and hold you accountable, but he's still going to let you kind of understand. He understands that this is a hard game. You're a kid. You're still learning, but we're going to do this together, and we're going to find a way to make every single individual player successful rather than just preaching one whole thing and hopefully everybody falls in line. That's what I think this team's missed the most, and that's kind of what I'm most excited about with Craig Albernaz so far. Moving into segment 3, his catcher connection. And I went and pulled some stats, basically back with, I didn't really pull 2021 so much because I'm not going to say that he had anything to do with Buster Posey's career. Let's be honest. Buster Posey was a just fantastic baseball player all around. I left 2021 stats pretty much out of everything. Now, he was a bullpen coach there. Their bullpen was one of the best in baseball in 2021. They did take a step back in 2022 while he was still there, and I went and kind of maybe researched why. They did lose 3 of their better bullpen pieces, 1 to Tommy John, 1 to retiring, and 1 just kind of fell off. Jake McGee kind of just fell off in 2022. But they still managed a 3.98 ERA. But they were 2.7 in 2021. They were really, really good. And in 2023, he kind of moved into the dugout to be closer to the catchers. And a lot of that, I think, was because of Patrick Bailey, being a rookie and whatnot. And they allowed him to stay in the dugout with Joey Bart in 22 and most of 23 before Bailey got there. Bart never really kind of panned out. Maybe he didn't get the opportunity because Bailey was that good. But some of the numbers that I found here was exchange rate or exchange times and arm values. So in 2022, Joey Bart was a .76 exchange time, which is pretty damn slow, with a 79.4 arm strength, which is about average. And then in 2023, after a year with Albernaz, he went down to a 74 exchange rate, which is better, but still bad. And jumped his arm strength to an 81.3. So he got his footwork a little bit better, he got his exchange time better, and he got his arm strength a little bit better. Good things to see right there. Patrick Bailey, we already know he was probably one of the best catchers in the baseball. Coming in 2023, had a .6 exchange time, .6. So Joey Bart, .76, Patrick Bailey, .6. That kind of already tells you the difference of those players right there. And Bailey had an 81.5 arm strength. So he was only with Bailey for that 1 year, and then, his best friend, Stephen Vogt, got the job in 24, so he moved over to Cleveland. But some things that I saw, Bo Naylor was a .65 with an 80.4, arm strength. And then when Albernaz got there, it was a .64, so just 0.1 better, and the arm strength was still the same. What he did better was He was at -2 outs above average with runners stealing. And then in 24 and 25, he was at +2. So when Albernaz came in, Bo Naylor got better. And I also Bailey was also, he's like I say, he's probably the best catcher in baseball, but he got better every single year with blocking and whatnot. And we've all kind of seen the video going around with the drills that San Francisco ran, and Albernaz was in. Some of them was ones, but those was with Joey Bart. But they're probably keeping those same kind of things going. So it's really hard to gauge what Patrick Bailey is. It's arguably the best catcher. So we'll have to see what he does with Adley. But Bo Naylor got better. He went from a 0 above average blocks before Albernaz got there to 3 in 2024 to 4 this year. So he got better every single year with Albernaz. And then this one's really hard to go with. Austin Hedges is obviously one of the best backup catchers in all of baseball. He was highly regarded with receiving grades. But what I did like to see was Bo Naylor again went from pretty below average to above average with Albernaz. So they spent a lot of time on these things. Adley's already a very good receiver of the ball in some situations. Some situations he's pretty bad. So it'd be nice to kind of round him out. Adley's pretty bad with receiving the ball low. He's the best in baseball at receiving the ball high. So it'd be nice to get that little bit, maybe steal a couple more strikes low. It'll be nice to, help a 21, 22-year-old Samuel Basallo with that, Creed Willems, get all these guys kind of just receiving the ball a little bit better. So, and then pop times for Adley too. I mean, Adley's exchange rate is pretty bad. It's up there with Joey Bart's. I want to say it's pretty close to a 0.7. I think it's a 0.69. It's workable. Adley's got a very strong arm. I think his arm strength's like an 84. So it's better than Patrick Bailey's, but obviously Patrick's just got better footwork, better glove work. If you get Adley back to this point now where he doesn't have to rush and trust his arm so much, I think you'll see better throws down to second base because everything will be a little bit faster. He's not rushing at the back end part of that throw. Basallo, we already know, has a bazooka. So same kind of thing. If you kind of work on that footwork a little bit in the exchange times, that's going to get better too. But I think that's where Albernaz really ties in his organization the best. And I'm not saying that they just hired him just for just 2 players. I think just overall and what he brings to all of the defense. But I'm just really interested at this point to see who he brings with him. And I know a lot of people are still asking the question is he this goes back to the puppet thing. Is he a puppet? And I think we're going to find out pretty quickly who's calling the shots, whether that be Mike Elias still or Albernaz. Do they hire a pitching coach or do they hire a hitting coach? And if the answer to either one of those is a no, then I'm pretty sure that Mike Elias is still calling the shots. So that's what we have to kind of wait to see. I don't know if those kind of hires are going to come relatively soon. Hopefully they do. Would love to get them back into, kind of finding the right voice. Albernaz, I think, is going to change completely what we've seen from this team. Their approach, how they go about defense. I'm pretty sure he's going to run like crazy. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm pretty sure on. He seems like an aggressive guy, and hopefully he brings that to us. So one thing I want you guys to listen to this interview here, and we'll talk about some of his word usage here and whatnot. Did it not go in? Oh, I might have to add it again. Hang on. Local video.
We get to see every game. How important is it to day in and day out know where the ball is supposed to be, have the ball go where it's supposed to be, and make the outs when the ball's hit to a guy?
Yeah, I mean, this game has changed a lot over the years, and especially over the recent years. But that's one thing that's never going to change, and that's going to be the constant, is playing baseball, clean, fundamental baseball. And, I think we've all watched the playoffs over the years, and, we've seen teams lose playoff games and go in skids because of not playing good fundamental baseball.
So, I mean, listen, I think we can all agree with him that this team's fundamentals at times were pretty ugly. At second base, we watched a lot of fundamentals just not really click for Jackson Holliday. I think first base was okay. Some of the outfield play this year, not throwing to the right base, not throwing to the cutoff men. just simple stuff. And, same with some rundowns we've seen some issues with. We've seen some drop pop-ups, in those tweener plays between infield and outfield. I'm hoping Albernaz comes in and makes that a priority immediately. Clean up the little stuff. The hardest thing to do in baseball is just not, I shouldn't even say the hardest, but just make the routine play, right? You make the routine play, and then here and there you make a couple really outstanding plays. You're going to put yourself in a good position to win a ball game. You start booting the ball around a little bit. You start creating extra base runners and whatnot. That's where the Orioles have run into their problems lately. So, take the Yankees for instance. You throw the ball in the dirt or something like that, and we'll say back when Volpe led off, and you allow Volpe to get on, and all of a sudden Judge hits a 2-run home run instead of a solo. Like, those are the things that start beating you in baseball, and they're hard to climb out of. And we kind of seen it early on this year before Brandon Hyde was fired. When those simple little mistakes happen, everybody's head went down. Now that kind of went away when Hyde was fired and Mansolino came in, and I credit Mansolino for the job that he did here with the situation that he was put in, the players that he had here. I thought he did a nice job. Did I want him to come back? No, because I still thought the defense was pretty bad. For him being the infield coach, so to say, and kind of going over some of that stuff. But the job that he did stepping in, I can't thank him enough. He made Baltimore at least decent to watch after Brandon Hyde was fired. I mean, he had a winning record here. We can't take that away from him, especially after trading so many good players. They still found a way to win. They still found a way to play competitive baseball. They just dug their hole way too hard under Brandon Hyde. So, again, thanks to Tony Mansolino. I think we all can agree with that, and a majority of the fan base is going to be happy that he's not here. So, but that's that. I mean, look, just catch the baseball. And I love that he said that out loud. The game has changed a lot, but the simple things of baseball still don't. Make contact with the ball, catch the ball, throw the ball. And I think we're starting to see a transition now back away from the lift and drive swing too. So it's nice to get a slightly older school guy back into here who's going to teach, contact to the baseball. And that was his game. He couldn't hit all that well. He'll admit it too. He was a little guy. Just get the barrel to the ball, drive it, and then let good things happen. Put the ball in play. You got a better chance of getting on base than you do striking out, right? It's a very, very, very rare chance that catcher drops the ball and you beat it out to first base, if he even drops the ball or misses it. Now, errors happen. So hopefully he brings that back to, like I said, everything that I've kind of seen about this guy, pulling the numbers and whatnot, I think he's pretty good. I think he's going to do pretty well for this organization. I'm excited about it. Just hearing his attitude and talking with different people and some of his podcasts and why he just loves the game of baseball. Obviously, he loves catchers. And me being a former catcher myself, I kind of share that same love, obviously, with the game and catchers themselves. So it'd be cool to see what he brings. Now, I've seen some people kind of comparing his resume to Brandon Hyde. And then some people even say Brandon Hyde's resume was a little bit better than this guy's. But I've said it for a while now, and I didn't think that this team needed the best guy for the job. I thought they needed the right guy for the job. And there wasn't a whole lot of leaks out there of who the Orioles, had interest in or even interviewed or anything like that. John Heyman did say today that they did interview multiple people for this position and then came away with him. And one thing that I did like about Albernaz was he was asked about in one of these podcasts why he didn't take some of these other jobs in 2024. Now, he was offered the Marlins job and the White Sox job. And without kind of really saying anything, he said, you don't just date the girl because she likes you. You got to like her too. So to me, that kind of meant like, did he feel like that those situations were the best for him to start his career as a manager? Or should he continue to do what he's doing under a very good baseball team, under a very good manager, and try again when somebody better offers? And from what we've heard, John Heyman and Passan and whatnot said that this guy was a pretty hot commodity around baseball. We don't know how many other teams interviewed him. I would love for maybe one of these reporters or whatnot to maybe kind of pull that out and see if anybody else did interview him, or did the Orioles grab him first and then not let him leave the building, kind of thing. But it was nice to see that he was sought after, and they picked their guy. And if he's the right guy for what they're trying to do, and I've said it a couple times on my Twitter, I feel like after Brandon Hyde was fired, I felt like Mike Elias kind of changed, and his, I don't want to say thought process or philosophy changed, but how he went about things changed. John Mabry wasn't a Mike Elias hire, I don't think. I think that was either sent from above, or Mike decided maybe his way wasn't working and let's try something different. And I feel like this hire is also, let me try something different, or maybe somebody from above, or the board from above said, this is the direction we want to go, find a way to get it done. We don't know. I just like, everything kind of out that I hear about Albernaz. And I really haven't heard one negative thing about it, but it was just nice to see that, for one, he didn't just jump on the first thing available. And for two, he thought, let me wait for the best opportunity. For him to think that the Orioles is the best opportunity, now granted, like I said, we don't know who interviewed him, that makes me feel good. You look at our minor league system, it's pretty loaded, and it's loaded with some pitching coming up. And you get Grayson Rodriguez back this year, knock on wood, hope and pray to God. You get Kyle Bradish back healthy this year, knock on wood, hope and pray to God. You get Trevor Rogers that can come back and pitch within means of what he did this past year, knock on wood, hope and pray to God. And then, I'm sure they've had this conversation of going out and acquiring a better pitcher than what Charlie Morton or Tomoyuki Sagano was. And I don't think he takes this job if that conversation didn't happen. It's not like he's tone deaf, and it's not like he didn't see what happened here in 2025. You got to know that conversation happened. Like, what are you giving me? How aggressive are you going to be? Because, for one, if he doesn't ask that question, that's just bad on his part. But two, if he doesn't like what he hears, why doesn't he just take another job? So that gives me optimism that they are going to be aggressive in some capacity this offseason. Could I be let down from this? Very well. I very well could be. And I'm not going to beat around that bush. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We've heard Mike say before that he tried, things just didn't work out. Look, I get it. I understand that part of baseball. You're going to have to find a way to make it happen this year. You absolutely have to, because I think Mike knows his job's on the line at this point. A new manager is tied to him. It's his last chance. It's not often a GM gets to hire two managers that one doesn't retire. When you fire one, it's not often you get a chance to hire a second. So for having a good one like this fall in your lap, it's a blessing to Mike. Could be a curse to the Orioles. I don't know, but let's just hope it all pans out. So let's go from a coach to a manager. And I talked about how he did here. What I liked about him, he was a two-time league champion in the minors. In 2017, he won it with the Hudson Valley Renegades. In 2018, he won it with the Bowling Green Hot Rods. So he only managed those 2 years and then went right off into the big leagues with the San Francisco Giants. So the guy got done basically playing in 2015 and then went and was winning league championships by 2017. I like that. He had 134 and 81 combined record in those 2 seasons. And then, like I said, immediately jumped over into a big league role with the San Francisco Giants. So not like they're a terrible organization. They kind of know what they're doing over there. And for Gabe Kapler to kind of bring him on, I thought that was kind of a big deal. And I talked about how good the Giants bullpen was in 2021. That was his role, along with catching. We've talked about what John Madden has said about him. So there's a lot to like about him and how he's gotten to this point. I don't see, just me looking through some of the stats and pulling some of the podcasts and just reading what other players have had to say about him, coaches. I said, I haven't found much negative to say about the guy. It's very easy to say the Orioles didn't do a good job here not getting an experienced manager. And I probably wouldn't disagree with anybody that did feel that way. Just because the Orioles are just they're in a unique spot at this point. where a guy like this could really come in and really propel this organization. But if this fails, like this team is too good for this to fail. Like if it does fail, it's hard to not think that this team is set back even farther than where we ended right now. Like if they come out this year and go 500, that's that's really good for a first-time manager. That's an utter failure for this organization and these players. Look, man, the Orioles are in a unique spot. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, if you would have hired Bruce Bochy, you're guaranteed to win 90 games. Like, Bruce lost a lot of games in his career. Didn't make the playoffs a lot of times. And same kind of thing could have happened. And that same unique, I would be talking about the same thing right now. That would have been, they'd be in a bad spot if they hired Bruce Bochy and did not make the playoffs. So I think at that point, you have to kind of press your luck. You got to take a chance on going with somebody younger, somebody who's hungry, somebody who's well-respected around the league. And listen, I'm not going to say a thing. I've had people say, why not Ryan Flaherty? I have no answer to that. I thought Ryan would be a pretty decent candidate himself. Maybe as good as Albernaz. We don't know, obviously, at this point. He's still looking for a job, so we don't know the situation there. My biggest thing, I just want to see who Albernaz brings in to help him. And I've thought about, and I don't know how Rocco Baldelli feels at this point. Like, if he doesn't get a managerial job, does he take a bench coach job or does he take a first base coach job? Like, because Rocco was a damn good ball player. Damn good ball player. Just, he had that issue going on where he couldn't stay healthy in his career. But you can't look me in the eye and say you wouldn't want Rocco Baldelli teaching your outfielders. He was a really good ball player. And then, I've seen some the Mets first base coach, his name's slipping my mind right now. He was unable to come up with a contract today with the Mets and somehow got their guys just stealing every bag known to mankind. Even got Juan Soto running a bit. So he would be a good guy to kind of bring in. And he has ties back with Albernaz. And there were some guys that I had found too that Albernaz had used to coach with and play with. And I think one of them was it Dave Neal? I got to pick it back up here. Who did I say here? Oh, yeah, Neil Allen, sorry. So Neil Allen was a former MLB closer, had a career 3.88 ERA with 75 saves, coached several years in the minor leagues, and he actually coached Craig in Durham. So he's 67. Now, do I think that maybe he still wants to coach? That I don't know. He was previously the MLB pitching coach for the Twins for many, many years. I don't know if a lot of people remember or not, but Neil actually got into an incident with I think he was arrested for like drunken driving or whatnot. He was suspended for a bit. He did come back and finish the season, but he hasn't coached since 2018. But the Twins were pretty good under his tenure. So that could be a guy I could see maybe he calls. Is he better than Drew French at this point? That I don't know. I can't answer that. But another guy that I really liked too was Brady North as hitting coach. And that one might be a little controversial. He's been with the assistant hitting coach of the Rays since 2021. And we all kind of know what the Rays do. The Rays didn't bring him back after this season. I'm not really sure why, but the Rays have always found a way to just have these, I don't want to say no-namers, but just they find a way to grind out at bats. They find a way to grind out games. And they're always right in the thick of it. And for him to be kind of sitting out there, he preaches selective counts. He preaches quality at bats, over outcome. And he does like analytics, which kind of fits into what Albernaz does here. So maybe that's a guy that they turn to. Maybe they turn to Albert Pujols. I don't know. There's options out there. And it seems like Albernaz knows a good amount of people. He played with a lot of, could he talk maybe Chris Archer to come in and be a bullpen coach? David Price maybe? And these are just names that he played with that I don't know how they are as a coach or whatnot, but they could try something. These guys that he played with for a long time. So I'm not really sure. But what can we expect here in 2026? I want to expect my bullpen to get better. I want to expect some good players to be signed. Hopefully they had that conversation, whether it be a starting pitcher, a big time bat, maybe two, and a good bullpen. I want to see Adley Rutschman stay healthy. I want to see him get better. I want to see Samuel Basayo stay healthy and get better. Not that he had too many injuries, but he seems to start every single year with some kind of an elbow injury. I don't want to see that happen in the big leagues now. So keep him healthy. Again, we've touched on the bullpen. Team communication. This is something that I felt like that we lacked about. And we'd heard times that, like, when they lost, Brandon Hives said, "Oh, we'll talk in the morning. We need to let this one kind of go," or something. I was never really a fan of that. I understand, like, sometimes you're a little heated in the moment. You don't want to say what you got to say then and there. And sometimes it's okay to, like, sleep on it and come back and talk as an adult later. But it's also okay to talk as an adult the same night. And I want to see the player accountability. I want to see guys showing up early. And I want to see guys not, coming to the ballpark late because they're hanging out by the pool or whatnot. I'm just throwing an example out there. And I want to see the data dialogue. I want to see him having those conversations and using the data to kind of back up why he wants him to do it this way or why he doesn't. So, and then culture. How can you bring all of this connected? How can you make this window that was wide open, that got closed a little bit, how can you break that and shine it up and open it back to where it was? And how can you get your players to buy in so quickly? And who can you bring in to do it and help you do it? Those are my biggest questions. To me, this is not a coaching hire. This is a philosophical shift for the Orioles, hopefully. We're going to find out how much control that he has, and we'll have to go from there. So, again, I tried to pull as much as I can for you guys, just to kind of go over as much as I could. I'm a fan of it. Not going to be mad at you if you're not. I mean, like I said, everybody's entitled to their opinion. So we're going to get into some of the to what some of you guys think here. And I'm sorry that I appreciate all you guys with the comments. That's for dang sure. But let's start and kind of get over some of this. Honestly, I have no idea how next year will turn out. Can we trade O'Neill? LOL. Sammy needs a good season to justify that contract. I'm with you. I don't know how next year is going to turn out. Hopefully, it turns out pretty well. Those things are tough. And look, if you want to make a statement and you want people to kind of start understanding where you're going with this team, I like Tyler O'Neill. If you cut him, I think you send a decent message. Only cut him if you have a replacement, though. Don't cut him and go and pick up Austin Hayes. You know what I mean? Like, I would probably prefer Tyler O'Neill to Austin Hayes. Now, if you cut him to make room for Cody Bellinger, I would applaud you, Mike Elias, at that point. It's not easy to eat $40 million and then turn around and spend 160, 180 on Cody Bellinger, but that's a damn message right there. You know what I mean? Like, you've made room for Bellinger, Cowser, Beavers, and whoever else is going to come up here shortly. And don't count out Aaron Estrada. And if you don't know his name, you might want to learn it pretty quickly. But that would send a message right there. So if they did that, I think I'd be okay with it. If you did it to afford Kyle Schwarber, same thing. That's sending a message to your fan base that you're in it to win it. Just don't cut him for an Austin Hayes or something along that line. Somebody that's equal to or slightly worse than what Tyler O'Neill is when he's healthy. Find a way to keep him healthy if you're going to keep him around. Tyler's a good ball player when he's healthy. He's a good ball player. He's got a pretty decent arm. He's won some Gold Gloves. He's got a good bat. He's just a guy you got to keep out of the weight room. You got to keep him healthy. And if you want to keep on to him, find a way to do that. And that's a whole nother conversation with the medical staff and whatnot. But we'll see. We'll see. Next comment. I know he won't, but I'd love a Ton opt out. He's not opting out. They're going to have to cut him if they don't want him on the team. So we'll have to see how they approach that. We'll see. Can he handle a bullpen, Brendan? It's a great question. It's a great question. And to answer that question is, can the bullpen be put into a situation where they're good? I don't want Yennier Cano being my seventh man guy. Even if he figures himself out, I've seen enough of him. Go with somebody better. Get yourself a really good 7, 8, 9 guy, because you don't have Felix anymore. You're going to have to really, really, really find a way to get this bullpen to where it needs to be. Because when you watch the postseason, everybody's got guys that are throwing 100 miles an hour. Everyone. You know how many guys the Orioles have that throw 100? 2 this year. 2. And then 1 is lost for the entire season this year. Go and find your way and get some guys that throw 100, not even if it's 99, I don't care. Get guys in the back end of your bullpen that throw hard. And then can we say, how can he manage a bullpen? Now, if you give this guy Yennier Cano as your 7th or 8th guy, he's going to freaking screw this up every single night, right? Because he probably ain't going to trust him, just like Brandon Hyde didn't, just like Tony Mansolino didn't. So that's on Mike Elias to get himself a good bullpen to put Albernaz in a tough spot to get some of this. If it's got to be Chapman and somehow, or Chapman-like, you're going to have to go out and spend some money on this bullpen. And a bat is priority 1, in my opinion. Bullpen's priority 2, and then probably starting pitcher. I hope that our starting pitchers are going to be good enough next year with Bradis, Rogers, Grayson, and why am I missing one? I can't remember. If you have Dean at your number 5, like that's good enough where you don't have to go and get a Framber. If you miss out on a big bat, you definitely have to make starting pitcher a number 1 priority. But to me, bullpen has got to be 1B. Like, you really got to stack this bullpen. You got to give them something to do here. Let's see. So you pump the bat and gets the best out of our guys. That's been what people have kind of echoed that he does do, is get the best out of players. And a lot of that is because of the relationship that he builds with them. And we've seen the video, and I watched it a few times today when he was with San Francisco and working with Joey Bart, and just kind of explaining to him how he wanted the ball to kind of cup while he's, snapping the ball like this. And just kind of like giving him that positive reinforcement and telling him, and they had the protective glove they had like a weird like lacrosse pocket. It's just a training glove. And just teaching him how to do it. Like, just simple stuff like that builds, like he said, he wants to put his player in the confidence to go out there and execute the best of their ability. And when you sit there and you kind of show them how to do it, and all of a sudden they can start feeling it, and you just keep doing the reps every single day, and then they get that confidence. Like, that's what helps a team win. And I didn't show the clip, and I watched one of the Cleveland beat reporters was talking to him pregame, and they were talking about how they continue to win year in and year out in September and why they keep doing so well. And he basically said that, like, they're as good as Jose Ramirez, and he does everything leading by example, which makes the coaching job a lot easier. Do the Orioles have that? Like, could it be Westberg? Sure. Could it be Gunnar? Sure. Could it be Adley? Sure. But they don't have that dedicated guy. Like, I'm going to get here at 5:30 every morning, or I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to run every ball out hard. And everything I do on the baseball field is 110%. Like, do the Orioles have that? Because if they do, hopefully Albernaz can Albernaz make one of these guys get to that point? We see it in him. Can he pull it out of him to where one of them finally says, all right, I'm the guy? Can he pull that out of him? Can he pull the confidence level back to Jackson Holiday? That's what I'm most interested in, because it seemed to work. He credited a lot to J. Ram in Cleveland. They need that guy here, a player like that, I should say. So we'll see how that pans out. Bleacher most likely trades think the Orioles will go for Pete Fairbanks. Guys do that all the time and then go and sign with a team like that. It wouldn't shock me at all if Fairbanks signed here. I wanted him last year. I think he's still got a little bit left in the tank there. He's kind of a quirky guy, which you need in a bullpen. So I'd be all for Pete Fairbanks. I like him. So there's been no rumors yet. I'm hoping by this news conference. What they say, November 4th. I'm hoping there's some more rumors, especially the first day, first 24 to 30 hours that this is kind of news is kind of broke. I'm sure he had time to process or whatever. He's probably now starting to pick up the phone and call around to see who would be interested, who could help, and talk to maybe some old mentors to see, what route he should go, who she should call. We'll see when those rumors start coming out of what he plans to do and what kind of philosophy he wants to take and how much control he even has. That'll be pretty interesting. No Paul. Paul's on Saturday. Paul's show. We'll do Paul's show on Saturday. Let's see. Do I think he'll be an Elias yes man or give him more latitude than Hyde and Tony? Considering how I thought the things had changed a little bit since Hyde got fired, I think they're going to give him some latitude and see. Because look, Hyde was given Drew French. And he was given the bullpen coach. He was given Tim Cossins. Hopefully they allow him to bring his own staff in. Same with Tony. Tony was given John Mabry. And these things all worked out okay. Not great. Okay. Hopefully they give Craig the ability here to call his own friends and guys that he's played with or been coached by around this league, and guys that he thinks can help him push the message to the Orioles in rather than who Mike thinks. I just hope Mike sees that he tried. He tried with his own draft guys. He tried with his own coaches that he picked, and it worked, but it didn't work, right? It worked for a little bit, and then it fell apart. And then it's okay to maybe Mike's in a bad spot. And he needs to let somebody else do this. But if they fail, he fails. So either the chains get tighter or he completely lets loose. That I don't know. And it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to find out probably pretty early with when it comes to free agents and coaches and whatnot, who gets let go, who gets hired, how those chains are. But Mike's in a tough spot. I can't sit here and personally say I know which way he's going to go or which way he's not, because his job's on the line. So I think as a fan base overall, we're all going to have to sit here and wait that one out. Let's see. It'd be interesting to see this coaching staff grow, considering we still lack in some areas. And in San Francisco, they had one of the largest coaching staffs. They did. And that would make me excited if they allowed them to come in here and actually grow that coaching staff with it. And I know a lot of people don't want multiple hitting coaches and whatnot. A lot of that's just the title. Guys got to throw BP. Guys got to hit ground balls and whatnot. If they did, say John Mabry was the head guy and they had two or three other guys with it, Mabry's still the voice. And then those guys kind of just, they go down into selective groups because sometimes it's easier to teach people something in smaller groups. But when you have multiple guys too, the way that I think the Orioles did it last year was an umbrella. They had a certain way they wanted to do things, and they wanted everyone under that umbrella to do it that way. Now, Albernaz says that he doesn't like to coach like that, and he likes to go individually and make every player play to their strengths. And if he brings a hitting coach in like that, you're going to need multiple guys at that point to where your head hitting coach is going to spend a lot of time dissecting swings, and then you need guys that kind of can work with them. Does that make sense? Because one hitting coach can't do it all. He can't watch all the film. He can't throw all the front toss, all the flips, all the BP, and still try to get to every single player. He's going to need some guys to offload some things to. So the Orioles do need multiple hitting coaches. I hope people kind of take that into consideration and don't think that, because Cody Ashley said something right now that Tommy Joseph is saying something different, and these guys are just getting a different voice now. They're all pretty much on page with what they're saying. They just need help doing other things. Can Tommy put his version of what Cody wanted onto some of this, and it maybe work out? Maybe he connects better with one of the two players. again, that's probably why you need multiple people, because sometimes just somebody else connects with one individual person a little bit differently than somebody else. But if it helps them grow as a ball player, it's kind of helpful. But we'll see. This move almost guarantees a no new GM. I wouldn't expected one this year anyway. And even if they did get one, I think they're going to be split out. They're either going to be like only focusing on the minor leagues or only focusing on the major leagues as far as player talent. And I think Mike prefers the minor league player talent side of it, which is fine to me. It's completely fine. A new GM, whatever their strengths are, they would go that route. So we'll see. I'm very interested to see what time or authority he would have to make Rodgers' decision. Yes. Players coming up. The one thing that I hope he brings from Cleveland is when they're ready to roll and they bring somebody up, they play. There's none of this like, oh, we kind of maybe have to play him, they give him a day off, and then play him, give him 3 days off. No, they play every single day until they just really, really fail or they start to figure it out. Don't jerk their chains around like they've done the last couple years here. So hopefully he kind of gets that leeway to kind of start doing that with some of these younger players. I'm kind of going through all this stuff right now. Let's see. Oh, Joe Radke became a member. My man, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. Can't put that on screen. Sorry. You deserve the money. Cancel my other membership. I appreciate it, dude. I appreciate it. All right. Who do you think Albernaz will bring in for pitching, hitting, and bench coach? And will Elias be in charge of that? Great question. We talked about it a little bit in the show. I don't know. I think we're going to find out who has full control here based off of that question right there. Who is brought in or who's retained? And if guys are retained, I think this is still a full Mike Elias show, and don't expect much of what I'm hoping Albernaz can bring. He's going to be kind of locked up. Now, if they come out and says Albernaz is like, you know what, these guys probably did an okay job, I feel like I can do a better job with this set of guys, and they all agree to it, then we should all start to get really, really excited. As far as who I think he could bring in, I've been looking all day at the guys that he played with over the years, guys that he coached with, guys that were in the organization when he was there. Look, baseball is it's a tight community. It's small. There's just a lot of names and a lot of talented people that he played with and got coached by or coached with. There's just a lot of talented people, and I could spit you off 10 names and probably none of them get hired. It's just kind of how baseball works. So I've looked, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time thinking what could happen. Charlie Montoya, maybe. I just don't know. I don't know. To me, it's critical though, of who he brings in. Like even first base coach is critical because it's typically your outfield coach. I do think they probably retain Buck Britton, and that'll be a Mike Elias decision. But I think so. Buck has played against Craig in spring trainings and whatnot, and then when he was in Double-A and stuff like that. So they probably know each other too. So I don't think Buck Britton's going anywhere. Chirinos, I'm on the fence with. It depends who else they bring in. You need a Spanish speaking coach to get into guys in the bullpen. And do they maybe switch Chirinos as a bullpen coach? I don't know. But you need a Spanish speaking guy, and especially with Basayo and whatnot, you can kind of get through to him and explain things and how you want things done and how pitchers want things done. And then while he's working on with his English and whatnot. But to get rid of Chirinos, I think would and not bringing another Spanish speaking coach, I think would kind of set us behind a little bit. Causa. Yeah. Causa. Yeah, that's what that's going to sound like. Causa. Yeah, that's going to be pretty funny. It's a pretty funny comment. That Boston accent is strong. And it's a Park de Con Havajah kind of thing. It's pretty strong. I can't wait till he says that one day, joking around, just to see how crazy that's going to be. Basayo would definitely be as a Basayo, something like, I don't even know how to say Boston. I tried. Don't quote me on that. It was pretty bad. Let's see. This is way better than Luis Rojas. I didn't really look too much into him. Didn't look too much into him. I didn't really think that one was really real. I think they just kind of just interviewed him just to see what was going on, kind of thing. I think they had their eyesight on either this guy or Ryan Flaherty, to be completely honest with you. How long until they hire me as a coach? Probably never, to be completely honest with you. Probably never. I'm sure I'll say something on here that'll probably make sure I never get a job with them someday, somehow. Those things always happen. It was reported that the Nationals also interviewed him this year. That's good. Nationals are a good organization. I think they're not too far away. Obviously, I think the Orioles are in a better situation than the Nationals are right now. But the Nationals got some talent around them. They're not far off. So it's good that he chose Baltimore over that. 4 teams interviewed him over Baltimore. Okay, good. Good. Again, it goes back to just because a girl likes you doesn't mean you got to date her kind of thing. Like it's got to be a match. I'm a big Josh Naylor guy. We're going to go over that. We're going to go over that here shortly in the coming weeks or so of why Josh Naylor fits this ball club really well. I think the only negative to it is you're going to take away first base at bats from Basayo, where you could use that left-handed platoon. You know what? I don't even know if Albernaz plays platoon. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I know they did a little bit because I know they acquired Logan Thomas to hit right-handed pitching a little bit better. But maybe he's not as starstruck on it as what we're used to in Baltimore, and we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So that'll be interesting in itself. I mean, that's a topic we didn't even talk about, is how he's going to utilize, all that stuff. So that's a good start. Freddie Peralta, Kyle Bradish, Trevor Rogers, what I'm hoping for. Listen, you get Grayson Rodriguez to a point where he's your number 4. It's a damn good rotation. Damn good rotation. Grayson Rodriguez healthy at number 3 is also damn good. So if you find a way to acquire somebody like Peralta or sign Framber Valdez or get Shane Bieber or something like that, you're in a really, really freaking good spot. Really good spot. And then you still have Dean Kramer for your 5th. You still have Brandon Young and Povich and Albert Suarez and guys that could come up as your 6th spot or your spot start here and there. And you're not relying on them every day right now, but they're still getting better kind of things. It puts your team in a really good spot. Yeah, we were talking about, I couldn't remember his last name. That would be a guy that they really should target, in my opinion. Really should target him. Oof. Won't be bringing that up here, Joe. Now, if you want to send $14 million for Robert Suarez or something, you ain't gonna hear me complain about it. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna hear me complain about it. You need a bench coach with experience. I 100% agree. 100% agree. And I think, you know what? A lot of people hated Brandon Hyde at the end here. I think Brandon Hyde gives himself a really good spot to go to, like, say if the Nationals hired Ryan Flaherty, having Brandon Hyde there, who coached Ryan Flaherty with the Cubs, give him some experience and some of the things that he's seen, kind of like what Freddie Gonzalez did for Brandon Hyde. Brandon Hyde he'd be a really good number 2 for somebody. I do believe that. I mean, Brandon did some good things here. There were some things that he struggled on. I'm sure he's probably learned from that. Maybe things were not all Brandon's fault either, So there's things we don't know about. I just think Brandon Hyde would help another organization pretty well. Let's see. If it fails, Elias must go. 100%. 100%. Yes. I agree with that, Christian. If this fails, you got to start over, and everybody's in a tough spot here. One playoff win, I'll praise Elias. Look, we say that, but one playoff win's not going to do it. It's going to take a playoff. You're going to have to win the divisional series, in my opinion. The wild card's not even going to do it for me either. You got to get yourself to a league championship series this year. Then I'll start praying. I'm not going to speak as negative as some people on Mike Elias. His seat's getting hot. I'll admit that. But I do think that this team is just a couple pieces away of getting to a league championship series. and I hope they go for it. I really do. I like Lane. I'm a big Lane guy. It just depends on what you want. I mean, Lane and Miguel Andujar are kind of the same player. I mean, Ramon Laureano was that kind of same player too. Lane doesn't play as good a defense as Laureano did. Probably plays a little bit better than Andujar. But yeah, I like Lane. There's some out there. There's just not a lot. We'll see. Joe, I can't put that up there. The assistant hitting coach for Cleveland, Junior Betances, or hitting analyst James Tubbs is interesting. Yeah. I think they're going to go the route probably of something within the Tampa Bay lines where they preach contact again. Because listen, if you make contact, these guys are strong enough. They're donkeys. They're strong enough to hit the ball at the ballpark. You don't have to swing up. And I put a tweet out the other day that teams are not swinging up as much anymore, and I feel like the Orioles were falling behind, still trying to preach that philosophy. Just 3 years ago, there were 16 teams with a 33-degree launch angle, and then 2 years ago, it was down to 12, and then last season, it was down just to 10. The Orioles obviously having above a 33-degree launch angle all 3 of those years, so they're still one of the few teams left that are still preaching that. I think we're going to see a change of that guard this year, and they're going to get back to more of a line drive swing. We're going to kind of focus more on quality bat to ball skills. It'll be interesting to see how they do all that though. And if they want to keep swinging up, I think that's a colossal failure, and that's a Mike Elias problem. All right, let's see what else got here. 108 wins, Joe says. Y'all write that down. 108 wins. Is Shane Bieber a secondary pitching addition more likely now? Shane Bieber's, they're saying he's going to be getting around 160. So I don't think he's a secondary option. He's, from what I've read, the Blue Jays want him bad, like real bad. People are still viewing him as like a number 2 when he's fully healthy. And then, him coming back this year, had a okay season. Now he's going to have another full healthy offseason to go and get healthy again. Shane Bieber might be coming back and really throwing the ball well next year. And I think people are going to pay him expecting that same thing. Pirates hired Bill Murphy. Good. Pirates got to do something, man. Pirates got to do something. Laura always coming in. Smash that like button when you come in. I appreciate that, Laura. Like and subscribe and become a member. Hey, see, everybody listen to Laura. Laura knows what she's talking about. All right, let's see here. What else we got here? Cut Ton, sign Bellinger, or Tucker. I would sign Tucker for the right price. I don't want to sign Tucker for $400+ million. I don't think he's worth that. The 400 range to me is for your elites, the best of the best in the game. I don't think Kyle Tucker is the best of the best. I think he's a very good ball player. Is he top 10? No, probably not. He's never had above a 5 FWAR. That's usually what really good ball players do. I don't want to. I want a guy like Kyle Tucker. I just don't want to pay him $460 million to just not get the production you should be getting out of that. I mean, look at Aaron Judge, what he's doing at his price range. And then you're going to pay somebody more to get less. Like, I'd be upset with that, to be completely honest. I'd be happy that they spent the money, but I'd be like, dude, we just spent a lot of money for somebody who's not leading the league in almost any offensive category. Like, I would probably be pretty pissed. Happy that I got the guy, happy that they finally changed the tune of the organization, but I'd also be like, God, that's stupid as hell. Heston's still alive. Heston is still alive. He was going through some stuff, talked to some people down in Florida. He's been down in Florida. He's been rehabbing. He's been swinging the bat. From what I was told, he lost a lot of bat speed to a point where they didn't understand why, because he was pretty healthy. They may have found something, but they're really working on getting the bat speed back to what it was. And I think a lot of people started to see that when a lot of the balls that he was hitting was to left field. Yeah, granted they were line drives, but he just wasn't pulling the ball anymore. So they're trying to fix that. But from what I've heard, he's alive. He's okay. May have been dealing with something here and there, but it wasn't like too extreme. They're just trying to get him right. And hopefully we see him come spring training. They've been pretty hush-hush about all that, and I don't know if that's because of Heston's request or whatnot, but hopefully we hear something here shortly. Too many lefties in the outfield. Yeah, at this point, I don't think they're getting away with it or getting away from it with Cowser and Beavers and Heston and whoever else you even try to throw out there. They're all left-handed. I mean, you got to think of like O'Verne, Honeycutt. All these guys they're all freaking left-handed. Still lots of unknowns. That's the love of baseball right there. You just never know. You never know. We have we have a bullpen with no Felix. Right now, no. The bullpen's a big thing for me. Bullpen's a real big thing for me. You're gonna have to put a lot of money into it. YouTube messing with the chat names again? I don't notice any of it. Let's see. Cleveland's fans are pissed that he left. That's good for me. It's good for me too. Usually you get some teams that are like, oh, you signed so and so, like good, he sucked, blah blah. Like I didn't read any of that. Like I said, I didn't find almost any negative about this guy whatsoever. Like he seems really loved from every organization he's been with, and to me that speaks volume around this game. That's just another lefty. Just another lefty. I can't disagree with that, John. Need accountability and needs real coaching staff, not a lot of sociopaths. So, listen, if Albernaz can bring that and kind of leave the GM to do what he's supposed to do, and the GM allows him to coach and do what he's supposed to do, I think we can get that counterbalance here with what's been signed here today. Paul Boss's mind about this hire should be interesting on Saturday. Yeah, I mean, listen, everybody's entitled to their opinion. There's people that wanted a more experienced manager, and like I said, I don't disagree with them. I feel like both paths could have been the right path for this team. The harder part was if this fails, it's harder to fail with a proven guy, because then it's really the GM's fault. You know what I mean? Like, so I just think his chain is tight, and he just went with an aggressive option, and you got to be proud of him. I don't know if proud's the right word. Encouraged maybe that he didn't play it safe, knowing that his chain is probably pretty tight, and he didn't just play it safe and go and sign Bruce Bochy, knowing that Bruce just struggled in Texas and some of the players didn't like him, and that's why he kind of was. I don't want to say he was forced out, but he was kind of forced out. Players weren't happy with him, and he could have played it safe and just signed him here because he was the best resume available. So I'm encouraged that Mike Elias was still aggressive enough to find what he thinks is the right guy for the job and not the best guy. So hopefully we can build off of that. Releasing O'Neal's an addition by subtraction is kidding. His injury history, lucky he plays 80 games max. Correct. Now, if you find a way to keep him healthy where he can play 140, 130, which I don't think he's done that, but maybe once, then everything would be okay. I think people could deal with that. But 80 games is just not enough. Do I see the Orioles extending both Peralta and Rogers in 26 if they trade for him? Why not? You can't sit here and beat your drum about how you're trying to spend more money and do this and that, and then not do something like that. Like, imagine if you only picked one. Like, if you picked one, okay, I think fans will probably get over it. If you didn't do either, I think people lose their freaking mind at this point. You can't keep going out here and saying, like, we're trying to do this, we're trying to do that, and then just not actually do it. So, yeah, make that trade and then walk your walk and sign both. That's how I feel. Elias is the GM. Don't let it. Oh, yeah. No. So he's the GM, but he does just a little bit more than just what a normal GM does. To me, these new titles are, and Albernaz had the same title, weird title in Cleveland. They get you to make a little bit more money so they can retain you from another team signing you. And they give you just a little bit more responsibility. So there's not much different from your day-to-day, just a little bit more responsibility because you're making a little bit more money. Who do I think is the next Oriole to get extended? And do you think they extend someone this offseason? I do. And I think they go after Jordan Westberg. I think they go after him first just to see the Boris market, see how hot it's going to be for Jackson Holiday. And look, I'm going to throw you a hot take here real quick. Jackson Holiday better figure it out this year because there's a guy, and I said his name earlier, Aaron Estrada, who's going to start banging on the door here really hard this season. And he plays second base, and he plays outfield. And right now, outfield's pretty crowded. And I understand second base might be crowded because he's a former number 1 overall. But I'm going to tell you right now, Jackson didn't get that defense squared away. Aaron Estrada going to make things real interesting around here. I don't know Jackson Holiday sticks in the infield in his career. I just don't know. I haven't seen anything right now that tells me he is. And I understand that there was a question to one of the other Baltimore podcasters earlier today about could Gunnar move to third and Holiday play shortstop? Why are we talking about Holiday playing shortstop when he barely plays second base all that good? Like, it's okay right now. It's serviceable. He's done nothing at second base to make me want to push him to shortstop, the harder of the two positions. I don't understand if people just aren't asking or not watching the games, or they're just asking a rage bait question at that point. But I thought it was a little silly. Jackson Holiday's not a shortstop. Never going to play shortstop in this league ever. And if he doesn't figure it out, he's not going to play second base very much longer either. He's going to be backing out in the outfield. So that's my take on it. It's my hot take. Aaron Estrada is going to be banging on the door here real quick. So it's a big year for Jackson Holiday. If we get Naylor and Alonso, etc., do we need another bat? Yeah. This team isn't just one bat away. They've had their chance to show that they can get it done, and they didn't. I don't think this team's one bat away. I would go after Alex Bregman. Josh, give me Josh now and Alex Bregman. Move Westberg second base, put Jackson Holiday in center field. I think that covers a lot of bases for you. You could put Bregman at second base for all I care. I don't really care. Westberg grades a lot better at third. The problem is Bregman is just better all around at third. But if he is getting older and he wants to play second base, like, I'm completely fine with either one of them. So there's room to sign guys and figure the rest out later, like Boston just did this year. And if you have a distraction, trade them. You know? I mean, has anybody in the Orioles, other than Gunnar Henderson, given you a reason to not want to trade him if they give you a distraction this year? No. Sign guys. That's how I feel. Be aggressive. You think Albernaz will get this team a shot of adrenaline they desperately need? I think you're right, Edward. I definitely think you're right, man. Yeah, so listen, Christian, I think that was probably by design why they haven't announced if anybody's staying or leaving. I think they want to maybe give him the opportunity to say that. Who stays, who goes. Let him do his own research kind of thing. And if a couple guys go and a couple guys don't, I think that's his call. I'm hoping. So that'll tell us a lot about who's in charge too. What influence would Cal Ripken should have on Elias after this? I don't think he's saying a whole lot. I really don't. I think he's content with his role. If somebody maybe asked his advice, maybe he would probably give it. I don't think he's going out of his way to share any advice. I think he's just really content, enjoying the whole process of what he's doing and enjoying the baseball and learning things and whatnot. And if somebody comes up to him, then he gives his 2 cents. I just don't think he's going out of his way to say anything. Kai Hass, thank you so much, man. Look at you guys coming here as a member tonight. God, thank you all so much, man. I can't thank you guys enough. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it, guys. What about Tyler Wells? Another option. Just another option. Right now, I think Tyler is probably slated good for the bullpen. He does give up some home runs. He likes to pitch up in the zone a little bit. I got to see where his velocity is. Look, if he's not throwing 97, 98, I don't want him in the bullpen. But look, I want this rotation strong enough where Tyler Wells is fighting for a 5 spot with Dean Kramer. That's when you know things are right. So just another option. AL East will be brutal next season. I hope the O's front office is paying attention to the World Series. Toronto, New York, Stankies, and both Sox will be hard to beat. As we can tell from our own doing, anything can happen any year. Don't anticipate anything. Don't just assume because Toronto's in the World Series right now that they're going to be really good. They probably are. But an injury or two could happen. What if Vladdy went down? What if Kevin Gausman went down with him? Are they the same baseball team? No. Things happen. So don't assume anything and go for it every single year. That's how I look at it. Go for it every single year, regardless of what other people are doing. Leave it to Joe to have censored chats. Come on, Joe. I really have to question the baseball IQ of somebody who preaches the higher launch angles. Trav, there was a time where it was effective, and I don't disagree with it because certain teams the Dodgers make it work. The Dodgers have the highest launch. They had a 37 launch angle as a team. That's freaking crazy. That's almost swinging straight up, but they're effective with it. They're freaking right there every year. You know what I mean? Like, they can find a way to make it work. Just because they do it doesn't mean anybody else can, though. It's like Aaron Judge. Just because he has his specific stance doesn't mean that this guy, teacher man, can run around and just make everybody else do it. Works for Jeremiah Jackson. It doesn't work for Adley Rutschman. So, it's I think teams are realizing that swing, that uppercut swing just doesn't work for everybody, even though it does work for some. So that goes back to Albernaz saying, like, I got to find things that work for every individual. Jeremiah Jackson, that uppercut swing might work for him. It sucks for Adley Rutschman. So fix it. That's how I look at it. Fix it. For every individual player, find what their strength is and roll with that. Don't try to make everybody something that they're not. Get Gilbert or Kirby from Mayo. I'd like that. I don't know if Seattle prioritizes Mayo to give up one of those two guys, though. I think that would be a 3 or 4 player thing for one of those guys. I think Mayo has lost some value. The power value is still there, but being just a DH or first baseman now has kind of lost some value to a point where you could acquire Gilbert or Kirby with you and maybe just one other player. We'll see, though. Heston was in Fayetteville. Good. He needs to go home and relax a little bit. Should be easy to sell with Albert being his brother. Yeah, I agree. And he helps the team too, Bullpen got to snag Suarez and Weaver and another guy like Helsley or something. At the end of the day, it's on Elias to help the manager. Yep, 1,000%. Elias has to get him in a good situation right now, and it all is going to start and end with the bullpen. You can't win a game if the bullpen's not strong. So it's all going to come down to Mike Elias. You really like what DeRosa said today? I do. But to me, that sounded like a guy who interviewed for the job and didn't get it and was a little bit salty because he didn't talk about the Baltimore like that prior. I think Mark DeRosa got turned over a little bit. He ain't that happy about it. Zach Eflin on a 1-year prove-it deal. If it's for the right price, the problem is you're going to have to give him a qualifying offer, and I don't think $22 million is the right price for Zach Eflin right now. He's going to get it on the open market probably. I just don't. I would take my chance with somebody else. If I had to pay Zach Eflin $22 million. So this is a Mike McDonald type move? What do you mean? Like hiring a young guy? Do we need a true leadoff hitter? Yes. Everybody does. The game's kind of gone back to that too. It was get your best player there, try and drive in runs and whatnot. I think everybody's kind of realized that, yes, you need a leadoff hitter. Yes, you need somebody to move around the bases. You need to move guys over. Game's kind of going back to what it used to be. Be so happy they signed Bregman. You need a leader, man. Need a leader. Those should sign Bregman, period. Trade for Fairbanks, King, Ryan, or Gore. Bregman to third, Westy to second, Holiday in center, Wells, Kramer, and Povich go to the bullpen. I don't think your bullpen's good enough with those guys in it. I don't. Look, at what point do those guys get guys out at past the sixth inning? And, like, those three are long men. Like, how do they help? You're not going to be able to hold on all of them. Do you dangle Povich in a trade for somebody? Maybe. I like Cade. I think Cade's got a lot to learn to do, and I think he's going to be a pretty decent arm in his league someday. Is it going to be here? I don't know. I really don't know. But the three of them in the bullpen, I don't think helps the bullpen long term enough. You got to go big or go home with that bullpen, and that's not going big right there. Is Slim Cady on the team opening day? I don't think so. Unless there's an injury. Now, granted, here's the thing. Do I think he's probably better than Keegan Aiken? Yeah. But Keegan throws just a little bit harder, and he's a little bit more experienced at this point. Now, if Povich can throw 95, 96 out of the pen, I'm going to keep over Keegan Aiken. I just don't know. He's got some stuff to learn. He can get lefties out pretty well. Right this moment, I would say no. Now, if he comes in and has a strong spring, you never know. But just based off of what last year is, I think I have to lean towards no, even though I do like the guy. Would I rather trade for Stephen Kwan or sign Bellinger? I would take Stephen Kwan. Just because you know what you're getting. Bellinger seems to get a little inconsistent sometimes. Have a real good year and then just fall off. And then have another good year and then just have an okay year. And then this year, I would say it was a pretty good year. Like, what are you getting out of Cody Bellinger? Compared to, you know what you're getting out of Stephen Kwan. You're getting a guy who's going to fight every single at bat. He's going to make that leadoff hell. He's going to hit 10 to 13 home runs. He's going to take 10 to 13 pitches in at bat. He's going to foul stuff off. He's going to steal bases. He's a Gold Glove outfielder. You know what Stephen Kwan is. You know what you're getting. I would trade for him in a heartbeat. Would I sign Bo in a heartbeat? I love Bo. Love Bo. Great bat to ball guy too. Love Bo. Put him at second for all I care. Bring Brady Anderson as the outfield coach. Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. I mean, look, he's around where he gets those things from the insiders and whatnot. He gets to talk to people around the league more than, obviously anybody like me can. But yeah, it definitely sounded like he was a little butthurt, a little bit, but he also has some insider information. I think he was hitting the nail on the head a little bit. The tone was just a little off for me for how Mark normally talks. Would I entertain Mullins back? No, I think this team outgrew him. What does he provide as a left-handed hitting outfielder who's the wrong side of 30, who just struggled mightily? Like, I'd rather have Cowser. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think I'd rather have Cowser. I can't say I disagree with that. If Sed comes back, I'd probably be done with the team. I wouldn't be done with the team. I'd be highly upset, though. Could Grayson be a closer? I would probably say no, just because of it's so volatile on his arm and trying to ramp up. And sometimes you're doing 2-3 days in a row. I think he needs to kind of have a set plan, knowing when he's going to throw, knowing when he's going to jog and ice and flat ground. All that stuff's going to keep him healthy. Oh, excuse me. I'm getting old, guys. If Mateo's back, I think half this fan base crashes out. Oh, man. What's my dream offseason look like? That's tough to say, but it definitely is signing a big bat. Priority 1, priority 1B is 3 talented bullpen arms. And then I guess you could say 1C would be signing one top-end arm. And listen, if you can't sign Valdez or somebody like that or trade for Mackenzie Gore or something like that, if you end up with Shane Bieber, I'm still okay with that. Shane Bieber is a 3 or a 4, depending on where you put him compared to Grayson. It still puts your start rotation in a good spot. And there's some other guys out there that are decent. Michael King, if you found a way to have Dylan Cease, and Dylan Cease comes in here and be your number, even if you got to overpay him to be a number 3, again, it puts your team in a better spot than it was. So there's some guys out there that can make this a much better team. It's just find out from my A, B, and C. Identify what's your real number 1 and attack that early. But you can't win ball games without a bullpen, and you can't skimp on it to the last minute. That's for damn sure. So if you're struggling to sign bullpen arms before the big name bats, get what you can out of the way and figure the rest out later is how I look at it. But I know there's always a budget. I like Tyler. I like Tyler a lot. I looked into him a little bit. He's got pretty decent stuff. I feel like he fits the ballpark pretty well. I don't know what he brings dynamic-wise to the team or anything like that as far as his attitude and whatnot, but I can't speak to that. But everything else on paper at least looks good enough to make this team and help the team. Everybody else thinks there's a lockout. There's not going to be a lockout. These guys make way too much freaking money. Way too much money. They're not losing that. These teams are making billions of dollars of profit a year. And even on the lower end, they're making $200, $300 million in revenue. You know what I mean? And the MLB is raking in 20, 30, 40, 60, 80, $100 billion of profit a year. There's no way they allow a lockout to happen. There's just no way. The world is fueled by money. If you cut that money supply off, boom, not happening. These guys are too rich. They're too greedy. There's just no way, in my opinion. I have to look into that. It might just be this year. Do I think O'Hearn makes the team better? I don't. I really don't. You're looking at another left-handed platoon first baseman. How does that? That's a roster spot taken up that somebody else could be full-time helping your team get better. I don't know. Would love to see get Ramon Laureano back here. Yeah, that ship sailed. That ship sailed. O'Hearn, if we don't get Naylor or Bregman, Alonso, and first baseman off the board. I'm not a big O'Hearn fan. He's a great guy. I just don't think he helps his team anymore. Do I like Mitch Keller? I do. I like Mitch Keller as a 4. I don't like him as a 2 or a 3 or anything like that. For the right price, I like Mitch Keller. And they're gonna ask for Kobe Mayo. I wouldn't trade Kobe Mayo for him. But he's okay. He's a little bit better than Dean Kramer. I don't know. And by a little bit, I mean like a run different, which is good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, head-to-head season at Dean's in the same league as Mitch, but Dean has some good outings, and sometimes Mitch doesn't. So to me, they're close. So I don't know. Does Tavian Josenberger ever make it to Baltimore? He's got to stay healthy. Yeah, he's had some problems with staying healthy, but I don't know. We'll see. He's got the talent. He can run. He can play good outfield. He's got a good arm. Just got to stay healthy. Do you think he's going to have control? I do, and I'm going to say that lightly. I do think he's going to have control. I just don't know how much, if that makes sense. We'll have to see. Definitely have to see. All right. I'm about winding down here. Laura hit the nail on the head. It's 10 p.m. Go to bed. Am I starting to look tired, Laura? Is that what you're telling me, that I'm looking tired? Or are you just saying it's an hour and a half, wrap this up because I'm bored? Who's the next prospect to make their debut in Baltimore? This will be my last question here. I think it might be Aaron Estrada. I'm a big Aaron Estrada guy, so I shouldn't say that. It's likely going to be Trey Gibson or Levi Wells or some one of the really good arms that are in AAA. Likely. It would probably be a bullpen piece, but hitting prospect, I would probably go with Aaron Estrada. So, but I get up at 5 a.m. I appreciate it. I do get up at 5 a.m. I appreciate every single one of you that came out tonight and watched the stream and interacted with me. This was a good one. I'm excited for Craig Albernaz. I don't fault you if you're not. I'm not going to be mad at you. Everybody's, everybody gets their own, everybody gets their own opinion on it. Again, like I said it before in this stream, either one of these, an experienced manager could help this team, and somebody like Craig Albernaz is going to help this team. So it's all on Mike Elias right now to bring the pieces in at this point, and for this guy to just put it all together and make it all work. So we'll see how that works out for the O's. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you. And stay tuned for the content that we're going to put out on guys like Josh Naylor or, Cade Povich and stuff like that. Stuff that can kind of get you through the offseason and get us back into spring training. So peace out, guys.